everyone. My name is Jean and I am with Enhanced Prep. Today we're going to be covering how to prep for my AP history tests. So how many of you are looking at your upcoming AP history test and feeling just a little overwhelmed by all of the memorization that you think you have to do? Probably a good amount, right? Whether it's European history, world history, or US history, the AP exams cover several hundred years of facts and dates and events, and it can definitely be a challenge to keep all of that straight on exam day. So today, I want to cover with you a few different go-to strategies that I've used with my students over the years to help them feel as comfortable as an encyclopedia walking into the test and walking out knowing that they got a 5. So first, let's review some test basics that will be an important foundation for our strategy discussion. AP history exam basics, okay? So there are really 3 sections to this test. The first is this multiple choice section, okay? This is about 40% of your overall score. I actually really appreciate this section since it oftentimes reminds me of several small details that I can potentially use later on the free response section. The second section will actually be a short answer section. This is really where the free response begins, okay? This is only 20% of your score, and you do have 3 questions to answer out of 4 to choose from. The first 2 are typically required, okay? There's no option, there's no choice. They're just gonna be what they are. But you have a choice between the last 2 options, between questions 3 and 4. That's really nice because they will be era specific. So if you are more comfortable in a specific era, you can always go ahead and choose that question. So it does give you that option. Now, in the short answers section, they are not looking for a full essay, okay? What they are really looking for is, kind of a really meaty, solid paragraph or 2. It does have to provide supporting evidence within that, okay? It can't just be about anything. And you really don't have time to write a full essay within the 40 minutes that they give you for this entire section. So the final section is what, most people refer to as the free response section. This is probably the section that you have heard about. It is about 40% of your overall score. And oftentimes the section that gives a lot of people the most grief, okay? Free response includes a document-based question or a DBQ and a 1-line essay. Okay, that's the full-length essay. While there might be a lot of anxiety about remembering everything from an entire year's worth of history classes, the DBQ is much like an open book test. That's how I want you to approach it. That's how I want you to think about it, okay? And students get to pick from 3 different questions for their long essay. So again, here for your long essay, you have the opportunity of choice. Again, similar to the short answer section, the long essay options will be era specific. So if you're better at modern history, pick the one in modern history. If you're better at ancient history, pick that. So that'll help you kind of like be able to toggle a little bit to your strengths. So now that we've kind of all agree upon what the general structure of the test is, let's talk about how we can prep and get that 5. Strategy number 1, start early. I know I've said this before in other videos, but start early, okay? I usually recommend this to all of my students to start studying in January for any AP history exam. Even though APUSH might have only a few hundred years to cover, the APUSH exam actually goes far greater into detail with those few hundred years than, for example, rather than like AP World, right? Where it has thousands of years, but AP World's really looking more for trends and developments throughout history. So it's a little bit more generic there. Either way, you will have plenty to study over several months, even if you just start in January. That's still, quite a bit of time, but you have quite a bit of material to cover as well. Okay. And then this will also help you commit some of these key events to your long-term memory rather than your short-term memory. That'll be really helpful on test day, as you notice, because you'll be able to kind of switch on and off where you're pulling information from, whether it's something that you just remember to refresh on that morning, or if it's something that you know for sure because you've studied it since, Kingdom Come. All right, strategy number 2. Here's to your historical cake. Okay, what better way to celebrate your AP history exam than with a slice of? I'm not talking about the type of cake that you would eat, of course, but rather this is a way to layer all of the important information, facts, dates, events, people, movements, and eras all into one easy to reference and remember visual. You will want to make a timeline. Okay, this is essentially what your cake is of your entire course. Yes, that can be a lot, but you can have more than one sheet of paper. And you will want to list things in this timeline in 3 different categories: social, cultural, political, and economic. Think of those as the layers of your cake. These 3 categories are how historians often view influences in history and weigh their importance. Therefore, any AP history exam will also want to see a cross-functional command of specific events and their impact in these 3 areas. The idea of this timeline is that you can take any slice of cake from this timeline in history and be able to correlate social events with political changes and economic forecasts together into one slice of history. If you ask me, this is so much easier than memorizing a bunch of flashcards. Strategy 3, study by different points of view. A lot of times the DBQ and the law and answer will ask you for a different point of view perspective to write on. So make sure you practice this during your study. Practice applying your knowledge to practice questions or even practice brainstorm sessions with yourself. For example, a study activity on any particular day. You can take an event, let's say World War II, and break it down into different perspectives. Ask yourself, can you explain the Allies' point of view? Can you explain the German point of view? What if you were an American during that time? Can you be a woman or a man or a child? Can you be a business owner? And what is the war doing to your village's economics? Just these simple thought exercises will help you start to link small details together. This is especially helpful not only for weeding out trap answers on your multiple choice section, but it will also allow you to write a very strong long essay in the free response section. You can do this even on the bus, on the way to school, or on the way to work, or at break. Strategy number 4, leave at least 4 weeks before your test day to take practice tests. Make sure that those 4 weeks, those last 4 weeks of your prep are set aside for practicing. Practice writing, practice answering questions, practice that thought bubble or point of view activity that I just talked about. Start building endurance by taking one section at a time, and then maybe the next week take 2 sections in one sitting, and then finally taking all 3 in one sitting. You want to build up that endurance, right? You want to build up running that marathon. You should have plenty of practice with a DBQ and a long essay before you actually get to test day. Okay. Go into each question with a plan, outline, brain dump of evidence to be used in essay, thesis, antithesis, conclusion, all of that. Strategy number 5. Yes, now we are talking directly about DBQs and long essays. Okay, this is where a lot of people tend to have a lot more anxiety about. Okay? And that's okay, because it can be very scary. You don't know what you're going to get asked. Let's take a look from a grader's perspective in order to understand how we should be writing these essays. Your free response questions are graded by 2 real history professors. They each give it a score depending on the essay type. The graders must score your essay within 1 point of each other. Otherwise, your essay is regraded by 2 other graders. This is all to say that the score you receive will likely be a fair score. However, let's get into the minds of the graders to crack these essays. Think about it, you're a grader. They sit in a room for a couple of weeks with a bunch of other graders, and all they do is read and grade essays on the same topics over and over and over again. Sounds pretty dry and boring, right? They also are limited to a couple minutes per essay. When these are the grading conditions, it also means that our essay can and should be dry and boring in structure to help make our essay easier to grade. The easier it is to grade a paper, the easier it will be to give you a high score. See how that works? So usually graders are looking for the following key pillars in your paper. 4 to 5 paragraph essay format, pretty standard. Okay, a very strong thesis. They're going to want to see that. That's a big point right there. You have to also have an antithesis consideration, right? A strong thesis is only made better by if you can say, hey, this is the opposing view and this is why they're wrong. Okay. Evidence either from the documents for a DPQ or your own recollection for your long essay. Okay. You will also want to work some of your own information into the DPQ, get some bonus points there. And a conclusion. They always like to see a conclusion because it shows that you weren't rushing to finish this essay. You thought it through, you planned it out, and you executed on that plan. Okay. Practice writing in this rigid structure for the 4 weeks prior to your test, or even longer if you want. And it's just one less thing you have to worry about on test day. Well, that's it for me in our top 5 strategies for tackling any AP history test. But stay tuned for more tips and tricks brought to you by Enhanced Prep. Happy studying.